Hey, we are back with another episode of Dropping Gems. I've let you guys know how excited I am about getting you guys to sit down and talk and give people some knowledge. But I want to do a little bit of an intro for anyone who's unaware. Myles is the creator of Half a Concert. It's a live performance series highlighting the undeniable talent coming from underground music scenes. The event is currently held in a loft on Sterling Road, one of Toronto's up-and-coming art-driven neighborhoods. Since the beginning, Half a Concert focuses have been to promote quality music and outright interesting people, as well as encouraging the community to actively participate in the events, the latter of which is achieved by making space for the audience to interact with the performer. The loft is a rather small space, putting the artists and their fans in a welcoming and intimate environment. In addition, Half a Concert sets itself apart from all things else with a conversation aspect, where host Myles sits down for an interview with the musicians. During the time, the audience can ask questions, share their thoughts with the artists. Now, to date, they've had 15 concerts and 4 listening parties, showcasing both local and international talent. Before we talk about Kishan, I've actually been to only one of these, and you told me the one I went to was completely different than the rest, but everything I just read is facts. It really is that vibe. So for anyone listening to this, that wasn't just BS. It really goes down like that. It really goes down like that. Now, Kishan is a Toronto legend in his own right, a young, aspiring content creator based out of Toronto. He got his early start in his high school days playing around with all different forms of mediums of media. As the years pass, he's been able to fully grasp the changing media landscape and is able to adapt to produce content throughout various different creative content. To this date, he has been able to work with TSN, Field Hockey Canada, North Pole Hoops, and is currently a live content creator for the MLB. Welcome, both you guys, to Dropping Gems.
Thank you. What up?
I want to start way back. This is probably a decade now for most of us. But in high school, what were you thinking about doing? Where was your mind at? And once you got out of high school and went to post-secondary, how did that change what you thought you were going to be doing when you were in high school? Myles, I'll let you go first.
Well, high school was 4 years ago for me, just so everyone knows. It wasn't a decade. So I'm not that far removed from it. It's still a pretty clear memory. But in terms of what I was doing in high school, honestly, my high school experience, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't liking it. But I found things about it that I liked. So I wasn't really, I couldn't really focus much, but when it came to like cameras and tech, like I was like an AV kid in my last 2 years of high school. So I just stuck around computers and cameras and started honing that craft a little bit. And I would find every excuse to like get out of class and like go shoot a soccer game, or I went to a Catholic school, so like the Cardinals would come and like just important like Catholic people, and I'd be like in there shooting them. And that's how I really found out that like I loved it, and I loved being behind the camera. I loved making videos and doing cool little photo shoots. And then I went to college, went to Humber, but the structure was similar to me. It felt like I was in high school, but I had less support, and I felt like my creativity wasn't being encouraged to. I wasn't being encouraged to bring my creativity out and be an individual. It felt very fit in this box so that we can push you into the industry. And like, it didn't work for me. So after leaving college is when I really became like a photographer, and just started doing my own thing. I'm sure Kishan can understand just like working your way up through the ranks of photography, doing random BS jobs just because you love having a camera, and then you eventually get somewhere and you eventually find stuff that you love. I did some pretty cool stuff. I was at like Fashion Week. I was doing lots of fashion shows. And then eventually just took a turn and said, okay, I'm going to try out music and concerts. And then that's how that came about. I still shoot though. I still do shoots every now and then. I like to do mostly like cover art and work for musicians. So I'm blending those two worlds together. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me in high school, I was never into photography like from the get-go. It was more later on in university, but In high school, the big thing for me was like Photoshop and graphic design. And like the thing was I loved sports back in school, and hockey was my favorite sport at the time. And so what I would do in like, I think it was grade 9 or grade 10, I would just make these like sports edits and then throw them on Facebook and tag all my friends being like, look at all this cool stuff that I've been making. And in retrospect, looking back at all the art that I'd made, it's really like not great art, like just really crappy art, but like I was really proud of it. And so that kind of led me to like continuing that throughout high school and into university. But at the time also, I started my own YouTube channel as well, reviewing hockey equipment. And I was a goalie, and I was not playing a high level of hockey at all, but I was interested in just like shooting something and doing reviews. And then eventually brands, I would reach out to, like, I would finish my school day and come home from school, and then at 3:30, 4 o'clock, I would just, I was like literally calling up these hockey brands being like, hey, can I speak to the marketing department? Like, I want to, like, can you give me some free stuff to review basically, and I'll make a nice video for you and all that kind of stuff. So in high school, grade 11, grade 12, that's what I was doing, like just coming home from school, shooting these YouTube videos and posting on my YouTube channel, Mystery Hockey. And then at the time also doing like these hype videos for hockey players as well. So that kind of got me into more video editing and stuff like that. And by the end of grade 12, I realized like, hey, like, is there a way I can combine more sports and media together? And luckily Ryerson was starting their sport media program, and I was a part of the first like inaugural class of the program. And it just worked out perfectly that I was going to do something in sports and something in media. I wasn't 100% sure what it was going to be. And then going into high school, kind of still doing graphic design, and I'll get into it later with my first kind of opportunities in the industry, but also getting into music as well, and starting a blog with a couple of my friends. One was actually a concert photographer himself, and that he kind of inspired me to pursue the craft, and starting that blog and getting into concerts and shows and stuff, and slowly building a portfolio. And it really helped that going to school at Ryerson, being in Toronto and being in the city, there's countless opportunities, as opposed to if I went to, let's say, Waterloo or Queens at Kingston, it's quite a ways from the city. So to have last minute opportunities would be a lot more difficult to handle.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that both you guys kind of were able to merge a lot of things that you loved into a career. Because what I remember, especially when I was saying about school, when I went to school first, I went to Seneca for broadcast television, and I felt like the structure there was not kind of conducive to someone like me. I had volunteered at Rogers TV in high school, so I had a lot of the basic television production knowledge already, and I felt like I wasn't being challenged at all. And I said, how the hell am I going to find some way to turn this into something that I like to do? And that was kind of the biggest thing that for me was so, I guess, hard. And to see that you guys both were able to find that and bridge those two is just perfect. The thing that I think, especially for all of us being people of color, is someone to look up to who's doing what you're doing, you know, to even both you guys now, you guys are probably OGs to some kids in high school who wanted to be doing what you're doing. Was there that person who you could look to and say, this is the guy who's doing what I'm doing? I was lucky that I had Cabby, and by God's grace, I was able, yeah, exactly. I had Cabby who kind of does what I do, and I was able to meet him. So it was perfect and work with him and all that. But were there people you look to who are in the city doing what you're doing, and you said, okay, that's a template, I can kind of follow that?
In terms of in the city, I don't really know, but my uncle is a photographer as well, and he always had a camera around me from when I was young, and like he also had a lot of good music around me when I was young. So he's a big influence for me, and like we'll still go out shooting, we'll still work on stuff together and like do collaboration shoots and stuff. So that was my first first sort of inspiration to be a creative person, because my uncle's very creative, you know.
Like, yeah, he's a plug.
Yeah, he's the plug for sure.
Yeah, similar to Myles, my dad grew up a photographer himself, and I've always had like a camera in my house, right? So It was just a matter of me kind of picking up a camera and actually using it. And it happened for me later on in high school at the end of grade 12, but just having the opportunity to have a camera in the house was really, really helpful, because I could go out and take photos with it and then come back to my dad and be like, hey, like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Like, what settings do I use, and that kind of thing. In terms of like specific inspirations, I think myself and a lot of people look up to kind of Charlie Lindsay and also Jamal J Scale as well. They were two people that were kind of OGs in this Toronto scene back in 2014, 2015. Like, a lot of people kind of looked up to their work. And for me, like, seeing Charlie shoot both like portraits and landscape photos and street photography, and also do the sports thing, was like, this guy is doing something different. And it's not like your general kind of photography that you see in the newspaper. It's like very like storytelling driven shots of the Raptors during the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it was looking up to someone like Charlie and be like, hey, like, he's doing something cool like that. Like, how can I get to that level eventually?
Yeah, I honestly, I love that you guys both said like people you know personally in your family that were those people, because speaking to people that are younger, I see that a lot. You had to physically see someone doing it. It doesn't have to be on the biggest level. They don't have to be a millionaire, but someone who's completing the craft, doing the craft the way that you enjoy it. It's something that's very, very important. So the fact that you guys had that, I think, speaks volumes to the kind of work that you guys do. This one is for Myles. Now, Half a Concert. Now, big shout out to Danny first for plugging me to Half a Concert. She invited me to probably 3 or 4 before I came to that one. And for anyone who hasn't been to Half a Concert before, Myles explains to us what it is. It is a vibe. Like, it is a serious vibe. I probably told about 12 different people that weekend that I went to that, and it's crazy because Corona basically
right after, so it's crazy that I even went to it. But talk about making that first one, because I had been to parties that maybe are trying to achieve the vibe that you have and are going for that, but many don't even get that vibe all the way to how you have it. So talk about building that first one and what your ideas were. Well, that says a lot. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, because there is a level of, I guess, professionalism, or like there's a level that I set for myself, and I try to achieve that, and I try to encourage my team or just people around me to achieve something high, like a high level that you set for yourself. And the concerts, they'll stress me out, man, because I make that level high as hell, and it usually hits it though, I'll say. But the first one, just for a little bit of context, we throw it at my homie's crib. 2 of my homies live there, and they're kind of very open with their home, and like a lot of the people will just come by for like after parties, or like we'll always just be hanging out at their house. So when they moved to this place, it was kind of the same thing. And I walked in and I just said, like, I want to throw a concert here. I don't know where it came from, but I just knew that I wanted to like use this space. And you've seen it, it looks like it's set up for a stage to look in a certain direction, right? So I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to start a concert. I just knew that I wanted to do that. And we finally set a date. We asked 2 friends, Renee the Voice and MI Blue, to perform. And it was just like 30 of the homies that came through and saw this little show. And at the start of it, like the first few shows, I was doing most of the like setup, you know. So like I said earlier, I was doing AV stuff in high school, so I knew how to like set up a mixing board just a little bit, and like speakers, like, you know, I could kind of figure it out. So I was doing that, but also like doing all the other things. So, you know, it becomes stressful. And then as time goes on, one friend wants to help out, another friend wants to help out, and then that's how you become a team and a community, you know. So I got to shout out to the team as well for just like showing up every time and like wanting to do it. And yeah, eventually it just grew. I was able to see what parts of it I wanted to expand on and what parts of it weren't that serious to me. You know, some things seem more serious in the beginning and end up being not that serious, or you're just not able to tackle it yet. Like For me, the hardest part has been like documenting it and filming it, because I know how to set up cameras and I know where I want them to be, but when your mind is in so many other places, it's hard to do that. So we just focus on making the real life as dope as possible, and you go and tell 12 people about it, and then, you know, maybe 6 of them will show up and they'll tell 12 people each. So that's how we kind of rolled that way, you know.
Yeah, I think the fact that you said you had a bunch of friends who were willing to help out with the AV, the lighting, the setup, I think that speaks volumes, because you have a huge sense of community at these events. You know, it is like everyone coming together. It isn't just, you know,
takes everybody.
Exactly. It's everyone, I guess, in the experience. It's not just a performer and an audience. Exactly. Everyone's kind of doing it together, and I feel that, you know, it is genuine in that sense. It isn't something forced, and, you know, it makes sense that everyone would want to be a part of it. The thing I loved when I was there was that some of the people who were, either it was lighting or audio, were performing, and I thought that was so cool. You know, I'm watching someone, you know, play with the lights for half an hour and then they go on stage 20 minutes later, or I'm watching someone, you know, carry a bunch of XLRs around and then I see them on stage a little bit later. So that was very, very cool to see. And again, multi-talented people, not just performers, but
very much, you know, so.
Cowboy behind the scenes as well. This one is for Kishan. You had and have kind of a storied career in Toronto sports already. What was that first position that you felt you had your foot in the door and you were breaking through?
Yeah, it all started in my third year of university. Like I mentioned before, doing graphic design. And what's crazy is a lot of my opportunities now have come at the result of graphic design. So if it wasn't for my graphic design, I wouldn't be doing photography that seriously right now. So this was all based in, so throwback to, I guess it was 2016. The Blue Jays are in the playoffs. They're playing a wild card game against the Baltimore Orioles. And Edwin Encarnacion hits this amazing walk-off homer, and it puts the Blue Jays right into the playoffs. And what was crazy is a photo came out at the time of Edwin celebrating with his hands up kind of thing. And then knowing me, I was just doing graphic design for fun. I would did a quick little edit of the photo kind of thing and put it up on Twitter right away, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour after the game had ended. And I tagged a bunch of companies, so like Sportsnet, TSN, Bardown, which is TSN's like sub-affiliate kind of thing, and a bunch of other companies. And to my surprise, I look back at my phone, it's blowing up. And I saw that Bardown had retweeted it. And crazy moment at the time. And then it was followed by their managing editor of Bardown. He followed me on Twitter, and then he DM'd me saying like, hey, like, love the design. In my bio at the time, it said student at Ryerson University for sport media. And he's like, yeah, see you're a student as well. Would love to kind of continue a conversation. And that ended up me kind of freelancing at the beginning, like just doing edits and designs here and there for their Instagram page mainly, because they didn't really have anybody there doing that. And then that turned into an internship, which I did for, I guess, 5-6 months. And then at the end of my third year of university, they offered me a position that really didn't exist in the department, in the social media department before. And what was cool about that is working in social media, we got sent to different events. So we got sent to Jurassic Park to cover the playoffs from outside. And like for me, like being there, just taking photos outside, I wasn't even in the building at the time in the 2017. But it was just cool to be there shooting for TSN, which grew up watching sports on, right? And grew up watching games and highlights in the morning. And my thing was like, I had a camera, so I'd bring my camera along with me to write more kind of social media content for the brand. And then from there, kind of bringing my camera everywhere to all the events that I got to be able to cover for social media. And then I think from there, it kind of solidified like, hey, like, at the time I was only shooting concerts, and then kind of pivoting into shooting sports and adding my own kind of twist on it was kind of cool. And I thought, hey, like I can continue doing this, and it got me to where I am today.
This is for the both of you. When you guys felt you had that breakthrough and you were taking your work to another level, what was the first roadblock in terms of how things were and said like, oh, I didn't know things operated this way, or I didn't know that this would be a problem. Was there anything like that when you guys kind of started taking your things to the next level?
Kishan, I'll let you go ahead. I think I
Yeah.
need to think about it.
I think the biggest thing was when I switched over from TSN to Yahoo Sports last year. The biggest thing was the access issue. And while I was working for TSN, it was great. Like I had the access that I wanted, and it wasn't really an issue when I was there because no one was really doing what I was doing. Like as a social media person there at the games, no one was really taking photos. It was only like the accredited kind of Getty and Toronto Star and Toronto Sun photographers there taking photos, so it was never an issue. And then I started taking photos, and then I got basically poached by Yahoo Sports with a full-time job, but yada, yada, yada. But getting into the arena and then having different kind of access, and I think people at TSN kind of went out their way to kind of try to draw back some of my access as well, and it's like all political and all that kind of stuff. And I guess at the time, like, people were upset that I left the company and all that kind of stuff, and I totally understand, but people were going out their way to kind of make my job a little harder. And that's just how competitive the sports industry is, and especially in Toronto, and there's only kind of two major outlets in Sportsnet and TSN, so everyone's kind of battling each other internally, and it's difficult when you're kind of put in the middle of all that kind of stuff. But with that being said, I kind of made the most of the opportunity, and I was able to get the shots that I did during last year's playoffs, and I can't really complain. But definitely access is a hard thing to kind of go about, whether it be even like concerts that you shoot in the city. There's so many photographers, right? And if you're not shooting for, let's say, a reputable kind of outlet or a brand, whether it be radio station or online magazine, it's kind of difficult to get yourself in the door sometimes. And sometimes you have to just know the right people. And I think that's the biggest part of like the profession that we're in, just knowing the right people and knowing people that can help you out and give you access to the things that you want, because there's so many talented people out there, but they just don't get the opportunity to kind of showcase that talent.
Mm-hmm. I think for myself, a huge roadblock or just thing that you have to learn about and overcome is like, as a host and as someone that's like constantly building and interacting with the community, is like how to take care of yourself. And you can get really tired doing that sort of stuff, just constantly going at it, trying to get better. And I find that like I figured out that if I don't, because I'm putting, my own money and I'm putting my own resources, and some of the group members are putting their own resources, if we don't have it together, like our health and our money, like we can't do the thing that we want to do, right? So you have to learn to actually take care of yourself first, so that you can provide, so that you can do what you're setting out to do, you know what I mean? And then secondly, one thing that I had to overcome really quick after like the first or second show was ego, because I woke up the next day feeling like I'm the man. But then I just quickly had to be like, no, don't get your head too big. There's more work to be done. You know what I mean? This was a moment in the journey. Yeah.
Nah, I feel that from both of you guys, because the reason why I asked that is when you are kind of taking on these things in your career, you realize that there are bigger forces in you, and there are forces outside of you. When I was starting my show, it was such a simple thing, but a lot of times I would end up shooting by myself, and I'd set the cameras up myself, and then I would forget I got to go get the ice cream. So now I've left this guest in the room by themselves, them and their manager, and I've ran to Metro to go get ice cream. That's not that big of a deal, but
I understand though.
Seeing that you're by yourself, you don't have the extra hands, is something that you kind of got to learn through going through it. Now, I want to get into, I want to say this is a somber question, but not as exciting as everything else we've talked about, is the quarantine. Now, like we said before, I just saw Myles before the whole world was shut down.
Yeah, like just before.
Literally just before. And I've been saying this for months. The NBA, I think, actually saved the world, because the day the NBA went down, people don't know, they were set to vote that day and if there was going to be fans or not. So that the positive case kind of changed that for them, and the vote didn't have to happen. But they saved so many lives. How has the quarantine changed what you guys do? Obviously things are so different, especially for sports and concerts. Those are not even really happening anymore.
Yeah.
So we're none of us are kind of idle guys that kind of sit around and do nothing. So how does that change you trying to get things done and the work that you do?
Well, I think that for me personally, I was already like planning to take a break, like take that time to recharge. So it came with decent timing for me, but I'm not much of an online person. So trying to keep up with the trend, or just trying to keep up with keeping alive on the internet, I was already like, I check out, because as you've seen, like real life, half a concert in real life, it won't be the same anywhere else. You have to be there and you have to feel it. And I don't even post anything on Instagram. We just pretty much post the flyers saying it's happening this day. We don't even keep content really alive like that. But we did do a few little shows. We did some like open mics where I would just like come bring someone into the Instagram live, and then they would do a song and then bring a next person. And then we did one concert as well with Angela Nethersoul, and those were cool. I think those came also with their own timing. I was ready for that, and I was ready to like go on the internet. But in general, I think during quarantine and just relating it to everything that we're doing, you don't try to fit what you're doing into the box of this now. I feel like you have to rework what it is that you do, or rework the passion to these limitations, you know what I mean? And trying to squeeze a concert into like online and make my whole thing online, I don't think that it would work, and I don't think people would truly appreciate it the way it needs to be appreciated, I can't even imagine for photography, like, shooting sports and stuff, like that was just out the gate, at least we could like sneak and like maybe have some gatherings. But I didn't, but at least, but sports is off. So I don't know, how's it been for you?
Yeah, what was crazy is right before everything got shut down, I was actually in Florida covering spring training for the MLB. So those were my first like 2 weeks working with the MLB. I was hired on as a live content creator, so basically doing photo and video at the game. So I was basically hired as their Toronto kind of representative for the league. So this year I was supposed to be at all the Jays games, all the Jays home games, and providing photo and video for the league. And what was crazy was that I was scheduled to be there for 2 weeks. Spring training wasn't over in those 2 weeks, but the last day I was there shooting, that night, Rudy Gobert tested positive for the coronavirus. And then that was like the turning point of where people thought like, hey, this is pretty serious now. Like we gotta, like if they're shutting down basketball, it kind of was the chain reaction. Like then all of the league shut down and people started saying like, hey, like we got to deal with this virus because it's not going to go away anytime soon. And like I remember the next day I was flying back home to Toronto, like just being at the airport was like weird. Even then, I think it was like March 11th kind of thing, so months ago. But still, like people at the airport, like I was worried. I wasn't prepared to be at the airport during that time too, with like the no mask, no gloves. I didn't really have sanitizer on me, none of that kind of stuff. So going home, and then I remember I was in customs in the customs line home, and I guess the MLB just announced like everything was going to be shut down for the season. And then I'm getting texts from people being like, hey, like what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I'm just trying to get through customs, I'm trying to just go home, right? Like I don't know what I'm going to do, right? Like
you don't know.
It's so like fresh in your mind, right? So what was cool was got home, got settled, and then eventually kind of reached out to my boss saying like, hey, like I also do graphic design. Is there any way I can help assist the social team with design stuff? And then she put me in contact with the head of the design team for the MLB, and Since then, I've been working every day, kind of working on different graphic projects for both the league and also all their Spanish accounts. So MLB Dominican, Las Mayores, which is their Spanish MLB account, like Puerto Rico, all those kind of things. And what's funny is I was hired on as a photo and video guy, but I only did that for 2 weeks. And I've spent the last few months working with their design team. So it just goes to show, like, it's especially times like this, like being versatile and finding a role for yourself. So you'll always be able to find work if you kind of have that skill set behind you. And then now, like, things are slowly starting to ease up. People have hit me up for shoots now, so I get to kind of do some photography here and there, which has been good for me. I haven't really touched my camera in the last kind of 5 months, but here and there, different projects. And then recently just announced that the Jays won't be playing here in Toronto, so that kind of confirmed that I won't be covering the team in any vicinity kind of this year, but hopefully kind of continuing to do graphics. And then maybe next year if they play here, I'm not too sure what I'll be doing, because I'm just on a 1-year contract with the league until the season's over. So everything's kind of pretty up in the air right now.
Yeah, that is a scary sequence to just get, you know, started a new position, and then basically the world shuts down. And I know that this goes for you as well, Myles. It's like, this is not something that's just one industry or just, you know, one section, and it's something that we've all never been through before. You know, I can't ask my dad or my grandparents, you know, what did you do the last time we were in the pandemic? You know, that's 100 years ago. No one knows the answer to any of these things. So again, you're right, that versatility is super, super important. And I think that kind of knowing yourself, especially as someone who makes content, is also important, because, you know, Myles was saying about have content being that experience when you go there. It's not going to translate the same online. And even with my show personally, I've kind of taken time away from that, because I'm not a fan of over the phone interviews and, you know, video interviews. It's just not the same type of vibe. So, you know, you have to kind of know yourself in that sense to what will fit in this new climate. We're about to be done here. I got 2 more questions for you guys. First things first, what's been your favorite part of quarantine? I've been able to spend so much time with my mom. I haven't seen my mom that much over the past couple of years, my brothers, my family. So that's been my favorite part. What's been the favorite part for you guys?
Honestly, same thing. My mom and I, we've never spent this much time together. We've obviously always lived together, but, you know, school, work, like, you have other obligations, but like 3, 4, 5 months and my mom works from home too. So it's a lot of time with my mom, basically, and I love her, and we've gotten closer and also bumped heads a lot. But other than that, I've been gardening a lot and, like, just tending to my home, trying to make my home a home. You know what I mean? We recently moved out to Pickering, so just trying to settle in. And I guess this was good timing. It's my first summer in this home, and biking as well. I've been biking a lot. Yeah,
that's what's up.
Yeah, similar to Myles as well. Like, when I moved out for university, I moved downtown to Toronto, and that was in 2014. And since then, I've been living in Toronto ever since. But during the pandemic, during quarantine, my lease ended. It was in, I guess, May. So I was able to kind of move home, not paying rent anymore, which is a huge thing, not paying that Toronto rent. And now living at home, spending time with my family that I really haven't done this much since high school, really. So being home is great. All my friends are still here in Brampton too, so we go up for bike rides as well. And it's just been, like, good to kind of reset yourself and have, like, a good, like, routine schedule now, because before I was just all over the place, like, not really a set hour, like, at the time, like, freelance, like, just no set hours, kind of like not treating your body right as well, just like on weird hours and not eating right. But now with quarantine, kind of a set schedule, I can work the same hours of the day, kind of eat at the same time, and then have time to kind of go out, enjoy the fresh air, go for a bike ride. And then even last weekend, I went fishing with my friends up at Rice Lake, just kind of stripped down stuff that you don't really do unless there's a pandemic, I guess, right? Like usually you would take that stuff for granted, like even just going on bike rides and stuff. But now like it's kind of forced you to kind of like forget about the bars and the clubs. And myself personally, I don't really go out to those kind of things anyway, so I'm usually a homebody. But the biking has been huge and great way to get exercise too.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, we got to give a big shout out to biking. Listen, biking and walking are at their peak.
To buy a bike, they told me there's a bike shortage in the world. I went to like 5 or 6 different stores before I could get a bike, and they were like, "Sorry, it's not happening."
That's like when everyone was buying toilet paper when the pandemic first started. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so this is the last question. We're going to end this off with a bang. Now, personally, I've been watching so much old basketball. I'm watching clips from 2012 Miami Heat, 2016 Warriors. I've watched so many of our old playoff games from last year. I have that run ingrained in my brain. Now, my pinned tweet on Twitter is that I believe the Raptors can make it back to the NBA Finals. So I want you guys to let me know, am I crazy in that, or do we have a chance to at least go back to the finals?
I'm gonna let Kishan take this one. I think he's a bit more involved.
I think they can. Like right before the pandemic hit, like they had that 15-game winning streak, and like all the players, they weren't even a healthy team at the time. Like Marc Gasol and Norm Powell were in and out of the lineup, and then right before the league shut down, Norm Powell was the player of the week, Eastern Conference player of the week, and was going off and like dropping 30 points every other night, which was crazy. And like just to have that kind of momentum going out of the season, and I think now like they've only gotten closer together. They're definitely the most fun team in the league. Like you can't pick a player and not like him, except for maybe Kyle Lowry if you're not a Toronto fan, right? Everyone loves to kind of hate on Kyle Lowry. I don't understand why. If he didn't play on the Raptors, I think people would love him. But since he plays on the Raptors, people seem to bash Kyle Lowry. But honestly, like with a healthy team and like just that chemistry the team has together, and with this kind of shortened season, kind of going into the playoffs with those late games, I really think they can kind of make a big impact throughout those games and kind of provide kind of like big statement wins, and then head into the playoffs. I think they got that. They'll play the 7th seed, which in the East, like there's only like 4 or 5 good teams, right? So that's a lock right away. And I think Toronto has a good chance of like beating the Bucks and beating the Sixers, even Boston too. So I don't think there's a team in the league that can, in the East at least, that can beat them. Just going into the finals, whether it be one of the LA teams, I think they'll provide a good opportunity to have a good series against one of those teams, especially against Kawhi or LeBron. Like the storylines kind of write itself, right?
Hey, I'm with you on that one. Second that opinion.
Yeah, I feel kind of clairvoyant, like I call this. I think it might have been when me and Kishan sat down last year, but I think in our interview, I had LeBron as my background, and I was saying, if the Lakers win this year, I'll go back to back because I'm a Lakers fan and a Raptors fan. Those are my two teams.
Same here.
So I think I might be clairvoyant in this. I may go back to back, and I may have a Lakers Raptors finals, which is my basketball wet dream at this point. That's all for us this week. Let the people know where they can find you, where they can support your work.
You can find Half a Concert on Instagram and Facebook at Half a Concert. And you can find my photography on Instagram at Isley Visuals, ISLEY.visuals. But like I said, catch me in real life, catch me on these streets.
Yeah, for me, _ Kishan Mistry on both Instagram and Twitter. I have a TikTok as well, but I deleted the app after like a couple months because I couldn't really get into anything on the app. Like, the dancing doesn't do it for me, so I deleted the app. But you can follow me on those handles. I've got merch coming soon, hopefully, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, I'm not too sure what big thing I'll be shooting next, but hopefully it's kind of cool. And other than that, just follow along for the ride.
Thank you guys again for for dropping by. This has been Dropping Gems.
Much appreciated.